Hi, I'm Pav.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast.
Let's start the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
For every protagonist, you need an antagonist. A few episodes back, we celebrated our top 10 sporting heroes. So it only seems right we now shine a dark light on the sporting villains. They are villains for many different reasons, but they are villains all the same. Here is our own villain Neil with 10 sporting villainy facts.
Thank you very much, Pav. So what I thought looking into this one is, what did other people think was a sporting villain? And ESPN UK ran a poll to find out who is the greatest sporting villain. So here is their top 10, and we'll see if any of them match up to ours. Now, so at number 10 was Roy Keane.
Man, you cannot be serious!
Number 9 was Diego Maradona.
Man, you cannot be serious!
8 was David Warner.
Man, you cannot be serious!
Number 7, Sergio Ramos.
Man, you cannot be serious!
Number 6, Floyd Mayweather.
Man, you cannot be serious!
Number 5, Diego Costa.
Man, you cannot be serious!
Number 4, Jose Mourinho.
Man, you cannot be serious!
Number 3, Mike Tyson.
Man, you cannot be serious!
Number 2, Joey Barton.
Man, you cannot be serious!
And number 1, Luis Suarez.
And don't call me Shirley.
As you can see, I did. I didn't do as many sound clips for that one as I have done for various other ones. So
It was perfect
apologies
all
for
the
that.
way.
There you go. There you go. Yes, sporting villains. It's always good to look on the dark side of life, I feel. So no better person to share that with than Neil.
Hello,
He's got a very dark side of his life.
Yeah.
And also joining us from the FTLOL Podcast. Was that your Alexa going off?
I think it might have been. I'm really sorry. That's in another room as well.
Well, there's the promo clip for the episode sorted. That's good. Anyway, we have Jack from the FTLOL Podcast. Hello, Jack. How are you?
Hello. Yes, I'm good. How are you doing?
We're doing all right. Now, let's talk a little bit about your podcast. Just tell everyone a little bit about what your podcast is all about.
It's available on Alexa. Actually.
Nice.
So if you put in Alexa play For the Love of Lists podcast, it will come up. But yeah, basically our podcast is a little bit like yours, and I think probably when we started, the idea was we will be doing sort of top 10 stuff of everything, basically a bit like you guys do, which is why the name is For the Love of Lists. But it is mostly, I'll probably say 90% sport, and within that, most of that is probably football. But yeah, it's kind of lists, rankings, and things like that. So yeah, this sort of stuff.
So you obviously
right up my street.
you enjoy a good list then, because I think everyone enjoys
Definitely
dissecting good lists. So what has been some of the favourite ones that you've had on your podcast?
Well, quite recently actually, we've been interviewing a few footballers, which is sort of kind of on a list form, but we're sort of doing the best teams that they've played with. But we did one recently, the top 10 Scottish players to play in the Prem, and Pat Nevin.
I listened to that one. That was a lot of fun. He was good value to talk to as well.
He's very good value, yeah. So that's always good when he's been on a couple of times. So that's good. And probably another highlight, we did some Christmas ones a couple of years ago. So like Christmas movies, Christmas films. I think you've done a podcast, haven't you, on those sort of things as well. And that's always fun to talk about that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. Well, we'll put the link to the podcast in the show notes, so please go and have a little listen to that. Obviously, sporting villains. Now, it can be a little bit controversial. I know that, Jack, you were saying that you thought about one that was a bit controversial. I think everything's fair game for tonight in regards to sporting villains, because there's different kinds of sporting villains. I think like Neil and I was talking before we came on air, is that like football has got a lot in our top 10s. I think I've got 4 or 5. I think you got like 6 footballers, Neil, in your top 10. But I think it depends on what you class as a villain. Whether you class as a villain as what they do on the field of play, or whether it's what they do in the comfort of their own home. We'll just have to see, what. And I've got different reasons for why certain ones of mine are in my top 10. But let's, we can just chat it out, can't we? So, Jack, give us your number 10. Who's your number 10 sporting villain?
So my number 10 is Conor McGregor.
Okay.
He's very Marmite, and I actually like him, but just how he behaves in and out of the ring, he's got a lot of haters, and he's causes a lot of controversy, really. And I think any sort of trash talker to that level has got to be some sort of sporting villain. And then there's all the other out of the ring stuff that he's got up to over the years as well. So he's in for me.
I remember all that debacle when he attacked the bus, didn't he? Do you remember all that? Throwing the chairs and the he's got a side to him, but he's also very good at his designated sport, or he was. I mean, whether he's still got it now is one to be seen.
Yeah, and he's
someone like that. Is that does he make a rod for his own back in the fact that, I mean, I can't imagine when he first started fighting, he was mouthy and confrontational out of the ring. Does that become part of his image? So he has to do that to sell tickets, to make his money and get more fights?
Possibly, but look how much money he has made and tickets he has sold. Like he must absolutely love being the, I don't know if pantomime villain's the right word, but in boxing, in UFC, if you do behave like that and become that sort of character, then people just want to pay to see you lose. So he probably loves playing up to that character. Yeah.
And like you say, his bank account is nice and healthy because of it, isn't it? That's the thing. And it does help, I suppose, that he is a good fighter, because if he had all that mouth and trousers, if you like, and then went out and lost every fight, he's not going to get those same. It doesn't matter how controversial you are, you're not going to get many fights if you end up losing. So you've got to back it up. And that's one thing that he does, doesn't he? I mean,
absolutely he does. Yeah, he really does, doesn't he?
He's a mean old fucker. Yeah, he is. Go on then, Neil. You're number 9. Sorry, no, you're number 10.
Oh, right.
Alexa.
So it's Lance Armstrong. Now, I don't particularly
He's my number 3, by the way.
Yeah, I don't particularly follow cycling or the Tour de France or anything like that. But I did enjoy reading about his magnificent downfall and what villainous thing he was. So it's obviously the doping scandal, the fact that he was the 7-time Tour de France titles that he'd won, and having them all stripped for his doping scandals, losing it all, and being a downright shitbag. Is that all right to call him a shitbag?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I was because he's very high in my top 10. But it's a double-edged sword with Lance Armstrong, because like if you look at him from a sporting point of view, he's just a cheat.
He is.
The reason that he got as successful as he was because he cheated. But at the same time, the money that he's raised for cancer research.
Yeah, well, that's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. It is a double-edged sword, but he's raised millions for cancer research, which is money that wouldn't have been raised before.
But would you say the same about the Leeds Hospital and a certain radio presenter?
Well, oh shit! Yeah, you go down.
I don't think they're the same level.
Yeah, I don't think you can equate Lance Armstrong with Jimmy Savile.
You can't. And the crimes, of course, you can't. But what you said about we're having a bit of a debate here.
We are.
But what you said about all the money he's raised, it's the same thing with Jimmy Savile. I mean, if you think about, if you were to put the money that he raised in his day into today's terms, it's millions and millions and millions.
It is, but I think it's completely different. I think he raised that money to cleanse himself for the wrongdoings that he was doing. Whereas
that's why he got away with so much.
Lance Armstrong genuinely had cancer, didn't he? That's the
Well,
thing.
he did. He lost a ball.
Yeah. And so I think it got to the point where he got to a position where he had to win and he wanted to keep winning. So he cheated to do that. But raising millions and millions for cancer, that's where I'm thinking to myself. I mean, I've got him at number 3. So he's high in my top 10 as a sporting villain.
Well, for the pure cheating, isn't it?
Yeah. But you have to say that he's raised millions for cancer charities. So I don't know. Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, Jack, come on.
You can have the you can have the casting vote on this.
So no, he's definitely a villain because I think he's put. So certainly when I was growing up, I didn't know anything about cycling. I don't really, other than because Britain have done well in the Olympics and stuff. But Tour de France wise, he sort of put them on the map. But he's put them on the map in a bad way, really. If people have only seen cycling because of him, then they find out that he is in this doping scandal and stuff. It's kind of what's the word? Put the sport into disrepute.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, like I say, he's number 3, and so he's very close to being my number 1 sporting villain. So I do have that, but there is that caveat of the. I can't believe you equated him to Jimmy Savile.
I didn't equate him personally, but the argument I had is they both raised millions for good causes. They did. You can't get away from it. Yeah. Well, I mean, for God's sake, we don't need to poll that. It's Jimmy Savile, hands down. But he's still, even through his crimes, your argument stands, he still helped a lot of children and young adults that he hadn't tried to abuse for his own cause. They still got the help that he raised the money for. You know, there's still a wing at the Leeds Hospital that he built by the money he raised. It's still there. They haven't demolished it because, you know, so it's a real double-edged sword, and it's a hard one. I'm not justifying what Jimmy Savile did. The guy should be dug up, shot, and reburied, and dug up, hung, and reburied. You know, we should, you know, but you can't.
Now then, come on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, a controversial start. Anyway, let's say that. Anyway, controversial start. My number 10 is a villain only in my eyes, and it's the snooker player Steve Davis.
Right.
Because when he was at his top, at his pomp, I was a massive, as you would have known from the Sporting Heroes, Alex Higgins was my hero as a snooker player. And Steve Davis would always win. And he'd always have that ice cold Steve Davis, and nothing seemed to fluster him. And he was like a machine. And he just really pissed me off because every time you wanted Alex Higgins to win, this, you know, exciting, flamboyant, doing things that no other person could do. Yet Steve Davis would come in, a boring Steve Davis would come in. And it was just like, I just hated the man. I really did, because he was this obstruction that stopped Alex Higgins from like winning everything. And I know Alex Higgins probably wouldn't have won everything because he had his own demons and stuff like that. But yeah, he was definitely somebody during the sort of 80s. I suppose, 80s was his main sort of time, wasn't it? And probably early 90s, that he just ruled the roost, and like everybody tended to play second fiddle to Steve
How do you
Davis.
feel about Steve Davis now?
I want him to be dug up and buried again. I don't really sort of care about him either way, to be honest. And sorry, Steve, if you're listening. You know, I mean, Did
you know he's actually quite a popular DJ now?
I have heard that.
What?
Yeah.
Genuinely. He goes to clubs and DJs.
He'd be the last person I'd have down as that.
Well, we all did. Steve Boring Davis. Yeah, we all had that. But
there you go. If I can find some footage of him doing his DJing, I shall put it in the video playlist for the Patreons. And we'll put that in there on the video playlist. Right then, Jack, your number 9, please.
So my number 9 is very much a pantomime villain, John McEnroe.
He's my number 3.
That's my number 8.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because now he's very much, I don't know if it's universally loved, but people like him now on the telly as a pundit and stuff. But certainly, from what I understand, the first tennis player that really, you know, had all these tantrums, started shouting at umpires and causing arguments and stuff. And tennis has always been kind of a gentlemanly sport, and he just completely, just didn't care about any of that. He just did his own stuff. So I think he's just the bad boy, isn't he?
He was. I always remember watching tennis with my grandmother, bless her, back in the days of McEnroe, and he became my villain, a very big villain for me, because my grandmother detested him. Said he should be banned from Wimbledon, never be allowed to play. He's bringing disrespect. And for years, that's the only insight I'd had on the guy, watching him having these tantrums with my grandmother and then thinking he was just a complete and utter asshole. I've now grown to love watching those tantrums.
Yeah.
And at the time, if I was this age now and what I know now back then, I'd actually think I'd enjoy the tantrums, even though it was very disrespectful in the way he spoke to the ref and everything. Yeah. And he certainly was a villain of his time. Yeah. Absolutely he was.
Well, the video where I grabbed that,
Man, you cannot be serious.
that audio, I'll put that in the video playlist. But that is quintessential McEnroe at his worst.
Yeah.
Totally. And then so much so that, I mean, Jack, you're probably too young to remember Not the 9 o'clock news. Can you remember Not the 9 o'clock news? No, they did an amazing, Griff Rhys-Jones did an amazing sketch taking the piss out of John McEnroe, where his mum's made him breakfast and the egg wasn't runny enough. So he's like, you cannot be serious. You're the pits of the earth. I'll put that in the video playlist as well, because that's really funny.
But I actually saw John McEnroe literally last month.
Oh, where was that?
Playing guitar for Pearl Jam. There you go. He came out on stage when I went to see Pearl Jam. It was the most bizarre thing I think I've ever seen. But there we go.
Is he left-handed as well?
He's a left-handed guitar player. Yeah.
There you go. See, there you go. And also, the reason John McEnroe's in my top 10 is the same reason for Steve Davis, is that I was a massive Jimmy Connors fan. And John McEnroe would always beat Jimmy Connors, and it would piss me off. So he was another reason to hate him. But he wore a headband, so he was quite cool with that, wasn't he?
He did.
Right then, Neil, you're number 9, please.
Don't dislike me for this, Jack, but it's Thierry Henry. For obvious reasons, not only that I'm a Spurs fan, obviously.
That one moment. Is it going to be that one moment?
We're going to talk about what the press and everybody called the hand of frog. And it was wrong, wasn't it? Which stopped the Republic of Ireland qualifying into the 2010 World Cup. Was it 2010? Yeah, it must have been. Yeah. And it was cheating. We've spoken about cheating, and it was cheating. And I thought more. Well, no, I didn't, because he's an Arsenal. It was an Arsenal player. But it was wrong, and I don't like that level of cheating. And to be fair, I'd speak up if one of our players had done the same thing of that.
But would you have, Neil?
Probably.
Would you have?
After a while.
Would you have?
After a while, you do, don't you? When you grow, when they've left the club, you still have his stature up there. But it was cheating, and that's all. I don't want to upset Jack anymore.
No, I was going to
ask. Nice guy, Pab.
Jack, as an Arsenal fan, Jack, how did you feel
when that happened?
I'm
an Ireland fan as well. So
shit!
Oh right, so you must have been annoyed then.
And at that point, he wasn't playing for Arsenal either. He was playing for Barcelona. So.
Right.
Wasn't he?
I mean. Yeah, I think the abuse he got was deserved, really, and it was a bit of a weird situation to be in, I guess, if you support Arsenal and Ireland. But yeah, it was definitely wrong for that, and just shouldn't have done it. But yeah, weirdly, I don't really have any footballers on mine, because I just think cheating is almost a part of the game, whereas in other sports, it's probably a bit more disgraceful when it happens.
But do you not think cheating's become more of a part of the game now and more accepted than what it used to be? It was up in arms. I mean, we remember full well, and I'm sure he'll come up, and he was on the other ESPN list, is Maradona. I mean, there was universal, in England, and it was, absolute uproar about it. Whereas now, you probably, where it would be bad, we'd move on quick from it.
Yeah.
I think we only move on quick because, I've said it so many times, is that even players that play for Liverpool, every footballer is a cheat.
Yeah.
Because there is so much money involved now. If they get a little tap, they're going to go over. They'll do what they can to roll around as if they've been shot, and it's embedded in them now. It's part of their footballing DNA. Whereas the reason that the Maradona thing stuck out was because it was like a isolated incident. Now people are falling down, or people are trying to get a cheating advantage in every game. It doesn't matter whether it's a team you support or a team you hate. And that is the one thing I think I hate about modern football, is the fact that people, and you understand why they're doing it, because there's jobs involved and money involved and lots of money involved, but it really, really pisses me off.
Yeah.
And when it's something as blatant as what Thierry Henry did, and that wasn't really about money, that was just to get your team to the World Cup. You tend to sort of think, well, how can you stand there and hold your head up when you've done so? And he is a legend. He's probably one of the greatest players to play in the Premier League, without
absolutely.
a shadow of a doubt.
Even I'll say that. He really was.
But like I say, even players that I love, my number 9, the next one I'm going to mention, they're cheats or they're just vicious, and it's just to get an advantage. So yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. So my number 9, I think, was number 1 on your ESPN list. I think it was Luis Suarez.
It was number 1.
Yeah. As a Liverpool player, one of the greatest strikers we've ever had. So exciting to watch, but just had an evil side to him. He bit, I think, 2 players while playing for Liverpool. He bit the Italian player in the World Cup, and then it's the whole thing of like holding his teeth, like you hurt my teeth by putting your shoulder in the way. And then also, I think it wasn't the same game, but it was a game in the same World Cup, wasn't it, when he handballed the ball and got sent off?
Yeah.
And then they missed the penalty,
Ghana
didn't they?
as well.
Yeah,
so
they missed the penalty.
Even more. Yeah.
And I can remember watching that thinking, what an horrible shit, what an evil, horrible person. And then he signed for Liverpool, and all of a sudden he was like a hero. He was amazing. And what a fantastic player. And then as soon as he left, what a horrible shit, what a horrible bloke.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was one of those guys that I think when he's playing for you and scoring goals, he's amazing, but just had a horrible side to him, just a real, and I don't know whether it's a South American thing, because they're renowned for, look at Neymar, when he rolls after an injury or something, he rolls 20 times, and that was a whole meme, wasn't it, where he was doing that whole thing. It's just ridiculous. I don't understand why people do it, because you watch even footage from 20 years ago, people just had a tackle and got back up. They didn't, if Roy Keane and people like that, I mean, as much as I'm not a Man United fan, they're just getting into tackles and just like brushing themselves off and getting up, and that's it. It's over and done with.
Well, it used to be a proper contact sport, didn't it? Not in the sense of it was a contact sport, and it's not anymore.
No, it definitely isn't. Okay, then, Jack, your number 8, please.
So speaking of cheats, I've got Ben Johnson.
That's my number 4.
Yeah, I mean, the 88 final, you could tell he was cheating from his eyes. They were like yellow. It looked like an alien, and I mean, I suppose the size of him as well kind of gave the game away a little bit. And yeah, he'd been cheating for years. I think it sort of went back that he'd been cheating for about 7 or 8 years before that final, and then I think a journalist asked him to give a message to like young aspiring athletes out there, and he said, "Don't cheat, you will get caught." And then 5 years later, when his ban's up, he gets caught again.
Yeah,
and then banned for life. So he obviously didn't listen to his own advice, and that's probably the most famous like disqualification in Olympic history, I think.
Because he broke the world record, didn't he? Did he break?
He did,
he broke the world record, yeah.
But I think I could have if I was taking those substances as well. That's the problem. Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to dope me up and send me off to the Olympics.
Yeah, sounds like a Patreon episode, that one.
Yeah, because I think it was all around that. Carl Lewis and Linford Christie were all around at that same sort of time, weren't they? But didn't Linford Christie get done for some kind of drug thing, or am I thinking that wasn't
Yeah,
right?
five or six of them in that race got done at one point or another in their career
Oh, did they?
for doping.
And the
Yeah,
thing is,
so
you
that
must
was
think,
the argument or something. That he
yeah,
would
they
have won
must
anyway,
all
but-
know that they're doing it, so that they think that, well, I've got to do it, otherwise I'm just never going to win. Sort of like keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I was the same as you, Jack. When you saw him and just saw how muscly he was, he looked way bigger than anybody else, didn't he?
Yeah,
He was like a weightlifter. He was like
a badly packed sausage, wasn't he?
It's like a badly packed. Yeah, you could put it that way, Neil, if you want. Yeah, but I agree with you about the eyes. He definitely didn't look human, if you want to put it like that. There was something.
He was away.
He was
away.
He was having fun, wasn't he? Right then, Neil, you're number 8, please.
There's not a lot else. If people know this guy, you'll know why. Joey Barton. Need I say more? The guy's. I nearly said the C word then.
Yeah, come on, Neil.
Yeah,
We only save that for special occasions.
Yeah, I nearly dropped it. But he was a dick on the pitch. He was a dick off the pitch. Read all his exploits. The bloke should have been banned from football years ago. You know, literally, when he was a player, he should have been taken out of the sport. Horrible person. There you are. That's all I've got to say about him.
He went to prison, didn't he? And then he still played for like 5 or 6 more years when he came out.
Exactly. Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
And we got other footballers that just lose their careers, and he never seemed to do. I mean, he's made of Teflon, isn't he? Obviously, because the shit never seemed to stick on him.
He's Bristol Rovers manager now, isn't he?
He is, and I still to this day I can't bear the guy. Cannot bear him. Prick. There you go.
And then he famously was speaking in with a French accent when he was playing for Marseille. Was it? I think he was playing for. He did the old. Oh God, what's his name? Who's the man?
Steve McLaren.
Steve McLaren. That's right. And yeah, he's just one of those guys that's got a charmed life. Obviously has. I don't like him. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't put him in my top 10 because he is a dick.
Really
and to be honest, if there's anybody that deserves to be called the C word, I think Joey Barton's one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. But we won't do it. We'll save that for another day.
No. I mean, he wasn't a particularly great footballer either, was he? I don't think.
No, I don't ever understand the career he had because he never did anything amazing. Or
no, and it seemed every time it was a game that had something on it. Look at the Man City QPR game. It was when he headbutted Aguero, I think, wasn't it? I think
it was. Yeah,
and he got sent off. But yeah, he always seems to have a good have a job. So what can you do? My number 8 was John McEnroe, so we've already spoken about him. So Jack, back with you for number 7, please.
So it's a bit like Ben Johnson. It's Marion Jones. So similar story. She won a lot of gold medals at the Olympics and was sort of, I think it's Sydney, 2001, and sort of came out of that as one of the stars. And I think there's quite a few years of rumours about her doping, and it's weird. I think she was married to someone else that got done for drugs, and then she went out with someone else that got done for drugs, and her coach was like riddled with that history of doing that. And I think she lied under oath as well and said she hadn't done anything, and then it all came out in the wash. She had to give up her medals, and yeah, just a real scandal. And then I think she's had other stuff as well, like she got done for fraud and things like that as well, like out of the track. And yeah, just the fact, I think the fact that she lied under oath about it as well probably just knocks her up a little bit over Ben Johnson. Probably not as high profile actually, but yeah, I feel like it's just a little bit worse.
She was like the female version of Carl Lewis, wasn't she? Because wasn't she? I think she was a long jumper or something like that, or a high jumper as well.
Yeah, that's why she would have won 3 golds. Yeah, because she would have done a few different type of events.
Yeah, she was like USA's darling, wasn't she? And then it was just all come tumbling down. Yeah, I do sort of vaguely remember her. She was sort of winning it absolutely everything, and then it just all. But again, you get to a certain level, and you feel like you have to keep it at a certain level, and we'll do anything for it, and it ruins. Oh, I don't understand it. I maybe I'm just not of that mentality that you feel that to be a winner you've got to do things like that. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, but you're not a winner, are you? Like, you must.
Thank
if
you. That's
you're
very kind of you,
No,
Jack.
not you. Not you. That's not come out right. That's,
Fuck you too. All right.
But if you're doing like drugs and stuff like that, like, is that really a winning mentality? Because you're admitting that you can't do it on your own.
That
and
is
you
true.
need
Exactly.
that
That
extra
is true.
support.
Maybe it's the desperation of not winning anymore, and you know, you don't know what kind of things the coaches are saying, what kind of influence they've got on you, and that. But
the outside pressures as well that's on them, not justifying it, but it could
no, that's
be,
right.
couldn't it?
Absolutely. I'm just going to make a note: never have Jack back. I'm just putting on.
I'll send my co-host next time.
Oh no, Jack!
I'm
you're
only
welcome
joking,
anytime.
mate.
Welcome anytime.
You're not the first person to call me a loser, and you're not the last, so don't worry about it. My number 7.
You're not going to ask me mine.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Neil.
You threw him, Jack. You've
Jack's
upset him.
completely
He's not
thrown
going
me.
to ask
Neil.
us anymore. It's
Go on
gonna
then,
be
Neil. You're
Fab's
number
top.
9. No, sorry, you're number 7. Fucking hell.
So this is a pantomime villain. I don't even know whether Jack would know this guy. It's from my childhood. It's a wrestling villain. It's Giant Haystack.
Hey, Giant Haystack.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was the scary one when we were younger watching the wrestling. We all booed him. We all hated him. He's probably absolutely lovely guy in real life, but his persona in wrestling. And I remember it so well, watching the World of Sport and him coming on, and it was the Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy fight. Oh, we all loved Big Daddy, didn't we? We all wanted Giant Haystacks.
Just for our American listeners, this isn't your kind of wrestling. This is British wrestling.
A lot better.
This is like really overweight British men in their 40s and 50s, just
wearing leotards,
banging bellies together, and that's what British wrestling was.
But
all
he
about.
was the one that when he walked out, the whole crowd booed, you know, because it was the pantomime. But obviously, I won't say how old I was. I can't even remember how old I would have been probably when he was out. But we were there watching the TV, black and white.
It would have been sort of 70s, 80s, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Easily.
yeah. And it was a booing time, and he was the villain of the time, wasn't he? On that, yes, he really was. So, but he was a huge man. I mean, I don't know quite how tall he was. I don't think he was an Andre the Giant size person, but he was as wide as he was tall. He was huge.
Yeah. I'll put some clips on the video playlist. You'll see. And if you're watching this on YouTube, obviously you'll see a picture of him when Neil said Giant Haystacks. But yes, what a man, what a mighty fine man.
What a childhood villain.
What a childhood villain, indeed. Done. Okay, my number 7 is along the same lines as Joey Barton, Vinnie Jones. Famous for grabbing Paul Gascoigne's tackle, that sort of thing that made him. And talking to tackles, that was the only thing he's really sort of could do. And if you look at some of the footage from the 90s, I mean, he was vicious. He was vicious, yeah. I think it was because of the lack of skill that he had that the first thing he knew he could do was just to run through a player. That's all he could do. Part of the very famous Wimbledon team of the sort of 80s and 90s. And I can always remember it. I don't know what TV show he was on, but he was interviewing Charlton Heston, the famous Hollywood actor, while he was still being a footballer. And he was saying, "Oh, I'm going to star in a film." And Charlton Heston has no idea who this knobhead is that's trying to interview him. And obviously he was talking about Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, which then gave him a whole brand new career. And I have to admit, there's a couple of his films that I quite like. Snatch, I think, is a good film. I mean, he basically plays the same character. He's
one role.
Yeah, he's the same character in every movie. Their version of Mean Machine was quite good, I think. But I think he's got to go in there just because I don't think... And he even played for Wales as well. He even managed to play for a country.
Well, he couldn't play for England, could he? Wouldn't he?
I would have loved to have seen him play for England. That would have been so funny. They're playing Maradona, and he just... Well, it wouldn't have been Maradona then, would it, I suppose? But
it might have been. Just.
Not for long, though, would it?
No.
Just smack the shit out of him. So that's my number 7. So, Jack, your number 6, please.
My number 6. Now, for this one, he's not your typical villain, but he's got a lot of, I suppose, haters is the word. He's hated on quite a lot. LeBron James.
Okay.
So he's probably one of the most criticised athletes in the world. He had a lot of hype, which he's more than lived up to. And yeah, it's weird. He's actually, he's not done anything majorly wrong, really. The one scandal he's had is when he left his boyhood club, the Cleveland Cavaliers. He sort of made a whole TV drama about it. I think it was called Decision, and he did like a press conference, and yeah, he basically went to the Miami Heat to team up with a load of superstars, make a super team. And I think basketball's been that way ever since. Like, people just joining up now and ruin the competitiveness of the league. But yeah, he's not your typical villain, because he hasn't got any major character flaws, really, but just the amount of abuse that he gets, and people just don't like him, really, probably because he's so good.
Or he starred in Space Jam 2.
Well, I mean, he doesn't help himself, because he likes to be compared to Michael Jordan. He wears the same number as him.
Yeah.
And he just can't quite live up to that. And I've not seen Space Jam 2, but from what I hear, it's nowhere near as good as the original. So that's
Apparently
probably just
not.
another thing he's not quite managed to live up to Michael Jordan on.
But then he also moved to the Lakers as well, and did exactly the same thing, where he joined with a few other sort of superstars, and I think they won the championship the first year.
They did, yeah. But again, he's not going to live up to Kobe Bryant out there. Like, that's impossible.
Exactly.
So he's not a bad guy like a lot of these people on the list, but just very, I guess he gets more hate online than probably all of these people.
He was pretty good in Trainwreck, though, although he did just play himself, but he was pretty good in Trainwreck.
Who starred in that?
That's Amy Schumer and
yes,
Bill
I've seen
Hader.
that one. Yeah.
But he just played himself, so it wasn't a massive stretch for him, I'm sure. But
yeah.
Okay then, Neil, your number 6 then, please.
So it's another footballer, I'm afraid, but it's one that Pav might join forces with me and say, actually, I agree with this. It's Paul Scholes.
Okay, why?
Because of the way he used to tackle.
Oh, right. Is that it?
Yeah, and how he never ended putting anybody in hospital.
Right, okay.
He was, he got sent off enough times, and he always did that. It used to annoy me if we ever played him. He was the one person that would score a goal when you never thought it was on, and suddenly kick it and in it go. But it was his tackling. I used to watch it with dread, and I used to think one day he's going to go right all the way through in that tackle, and somebody's going to have a serious injury. He really didn't give a shit.
Oh no, he wasn't a tackler, was he?
No,
at all.
He kept doing it though, didn't he?
Yeah.
So Paul Scholes, there you go. And it used to wound me up. It literally, no, that is the reason why I put him as a villain, because he really did used to wind me up watching him.
Yeah.
I lived with a Man United supporter and they could see no wrong, but it used to wind me up so badly. I'm not taking away. Even though he played for Man United, he was a good footballer. He was a great footballer, but he just had no ability to tackle.
That's fair enough. I mean, look, I've as much as I hate Manchester United, I've got no Manchester United players or anyone in my sporting villains top 10. Mainly because if it had been 11, I would have just put all 11 Man United players as the thing. But there's no point in doing that. Weird thing is, I've got a couple of Liverpool players in my top 10. But we'll get on to that. Yeah, Scholes was just I can't say quality player because he was Man United. I can't get it out. I can't.
He was.
He was a quality
do not get
player.
into an argument about him with Man United fans, because I think they've got him on a pedestal as crazy.
Yeah, they do. They do, Jack. And this is the problem.
Well, you know Ollie, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
he,
I went on his podcast and we did a top 50 players of the noughties, and he has Scholes over Zidane. So that's the kind of deludedness. Sorry, Ollie. The Man United fans have on him, but it's weird because like he never used to do interviews when he was a player, and yet now he's always on BT Sport and stuff.
Yeah, the pundit.
It's weird that he's a pundit now.
Yeah. Then to be fair, he's a bit like Roy Keane. He won't sugarcoat stuff if it's Man United. You know, he won't kiss ass the players of Man United. If he thinks that they're doing badly, he'll really put them through the ringer, which I think is really, it's interesting to hear, because I always think they're like, especially like Gary Neville and all that, they're all the sort of the class of '92, and they all stick together, and it's always nice. And he's like, say, like Roy Keane. I hated Roy Keane as a player, but as a pundit, I think he's one of the top pundits, because he'll say it exactly how it is.
Yeah.
And he doesn't give a shit if people don't like what he says. He'll just say it. And if it means it upsets a few people in the hierarchy of the club that he used to love, or that he does love, so be it, you know. But yeah, still Man United. I'm sorry, Ollie, but I just can't. I love speaking to Ollie just so that I can keep playing the Aguero moment for him. Any choice that I get. There was a tweet that you put out earlier on about something, and for some, I can't remember how I did it, but I still put the Aguero moment as an answer. He didn't like me for that, but there you go. Love you, Ollie. Okay, so my number 6, again, someone that is a legend in the sport that they were in, but a couple of moments make him a villain, and that's Mike Tyson.
Oh, that's my number 5.
He's my number 4.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in my sporting heroes, and he's also in my sporting villains.
Exactly.
That sums that up quite well for him, I think, to be in both.
I mean, there's no, for me, there's no better boxer. I think he was the total package when it came to a boxer. Just no frills, get in there, do the job, get out. But when he started losing his power, if you like, he resorted to things like biting someone's ear off, you know, and then also the stuff that he got up to out of the ring. And I think when we said on the Sporting Heroes, we said that a lot of the Sporting Heroes that I love have got that streak of badness in them. You know, that streak of rogueness in them. Sometimes it's a thing that makes you draw yourself towards them, as opposed to someone like Steve Davis, if you like, who just goes there, does the job, goes home, drinks a glass of milk, goes to bed. And I don't know if he drinks a glass of milk before he goes to bed. I don't know. I've never been there. I don't know. But, you know, you could imagine that he did. But Mike Tyson was dangerous. But the trouble is, he was also dangerous out of the ring as well as in the ring. So, you know, what about you guys, Jack?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's Holyfield's the one where everyone kind of remembers as in the ring stuff. But I think there's a few fights where he got disqualified for different things, and so many press conferences I can remember him like starting fights before, and I know it does happen, but it seemed to happen like every fight with him. And he just he properly lived up to the baddest man on the planet title that he had for a bit, really. And yeah, it's weird. I really like Mike Tyson. He's always one of my favourite ever boxers, but you can't deny he's a proper villain.
He is, and like Pav said, the stuff that went on outside of the ring, there's just no justification, is it? There's nothing to say, but it was bad and wrong, and he is a villain in that sense. But I think it was from the Holyfield fight that everything went down shit creek, didn't it?
Yeah.
It really
I mean,
did.
I think it started with Buster Douglas when he lost there, because he wasn't in a good place, I think, then, was he? But that was the start of the decline. But
it was, and then the press got on board with the ear bite, and it just, everything went really down for him. But yeah, you can't take away what a great boxer he was, but also what a great villain he is.
Yeah. Totally agree. So that was my number 6. So Jack, your number 5 then, please.
Number 5, so still playing now, Nick Kyrgios.
Yeah, he was close to mine.
I don't think I've actively disliked a tennis player like this before. It's just everything about him. Like, I mean, the Wimbledon final, he got to the final. He was winning points, and he was still moaning about stuff. And what was it about saying the woman's had like 700 drinks in the crowd? And I don't know. There's just something not right with him mentally, I think. And unlike McEnroe at least won quite a few Grand Slams, and he didn't let that get in the way of his game. Kyrgios is almost a villain to himself, really.
Yeah.
He's his biggest enemy because on the grass, arguably he's the best in the world, better than Djokovic, but he's not got the mental game at all for that. So he's his own worst enemy.
I think the weird thing about it was like I've started listening to Talk Sport a lot, and especially White and Jordan. Yes, White and Jordan. I love the fact that they have arguments with each other and stuff. But during Wimbledon, they all kept asking, saying, "Well, surely Wimbledon are going to fine him." Because it wasn't just one match. It'd be one match, then the next match he'd start. And it almost felt like Wimbledon were loving it because it made Wimbledon relevant. People were talking about Wimbledon again. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't just about the tennis. It was the fact that there was something, not necessarily negative, but there was something a bit juicy to watch because, as we've said, Neil, about sporting heroes, a lot of sport doesn't have characters anymore. Football doesn't have characters anymore. Snooker, I think, definitely doesn't have the characters in it that it used to. So when you've got somebody there that is just fighting back against the establishment and shouting out about things, it becomes more of a shock. The same as when John McEnroe did it back in the 70s and 80s, because nobody did it back then. And nobody seems to do it now. But then Nick Kyrgios comes around, but he gets to the final as well. And like you say, I think he beat himself. I don't think Djokovic beat him. I think he beat himself. And
he comes across as a moaner. He's got an excuse. He's got an excuse for everything but himself, as you say. Something puts him off. Something's this, something's that. If you listen to him, it's always something else. You can't say, "Oh, I played a bit crap today." It's something else. It's this, it's that that's put me off. And I don't like that sort of sportsmanship where it's everything else but him. And
especially when it's a one-on-one sport, like you've got to take responsibility at that point.
Yeah, sure, you're right. I remember there's footage of him in a tournament in America, and he has to go at Ben Stiller, doesn't he? Have you seen that? Ben Stiller made some comment, and Kyrgios is about to serve, and he sort of looks back up at him and he says, "Well, when I want sort of you to talk to me about acting," he said, "I'll listen." So I had to go at Ben Stiller.
I know, isn't it?
I think, fucking hell, what's the point? But that's a good one. Yeah, that is a good one. I mean, I think he is like he's the present day McEnroe, isn't he?
Trying to be.
But
he hasn't got the personality to me.
No. And I don't think he's got the game to back it up either. I think if he just played the game and not give out so much, energy in that, he would win competitions. And I think you're exactly right, Jack. McEnroe had the tournaments and the Grand Slams to back it up. But you look a bit foolish if you're doing it and you're not winning anything. That's the trouble. Okay, Neil, you said Mike Tyson for your number 5. My number 5, Neil, you've already mentioned him, and it is Diego Maradona. And it's
my number 2.
Your number 2.
My number 2. I was smack bang in my secondary school years when all this went on. But I'll let you carry on.
I was just going to say, it's only for. I mean, it's the hand of God, and obviously was it the following World Cup or the World Cup after that? Was the drugs. I think. Yeah, the drugs. Yeah. Apart from that, for me, he's one of the greatest players ever to play football. I was lucky enough when England played Argentina in 1981, I think it was, and he was only a young pup. But I saw him live, and he almost did the Maradona goal that he scored against England that night, and the ball just went past the post. It was unbelievable. It was one of the things thinking, who the hell's this? And just, even I was like 12, 13 or something. But I don't think there'll ever be a player like Maradona. The fact that he was just, I suppose Messi is sort of the same.
Yeah, but
short, squat, amazing balance. But the stuff, just watching him for Napoli warming up when he's dancing with the football and he's just like bouncing it off his shoulders and stuff. It's just, he made the game look so easy. But he had his demons. That's the trouble.
Oh, didn't he just?
And just that handball. You see the photograph of it, which I will put up on the YouTube without a shadow of a doubt. But it was also in the middle of the whole Falklands War as well, and he never ever felt guilty. He never felt guilty about that. It was to him, it was God that helped them win against us, because of the Falklands War. So, but Steve Hodge was happy about it because he made something like 2 or 3 million on that shirt, didn't he?
I think it was about 7 million, wasn't it?
Was it 7 million?
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, someone was laughing about that, and it was Steve Hodge, without a shadow of a doubt.
I think the real villain's Peter Shilton, though, because how are you getting out-jumped by Maradona?
That's true. I mean, you're right, but then when you look at the photograph and Maradona's hand is another like 2 feet above his head, you're absolutely right, because I mean, is this sacrilege? I never rated Peter Shilton as a goalkeeper. I'm not really sure.
He had his mistakes for England, didn't he? Like in that free kick against Germany as well.
He did, and he never seemed to say. I've never seen him save a penalty.
No, his penalty record's just, I think there was something that said basically he would wait for the ball to actually move and then he'd die.
Absolutely right. The amount of times his penalty saving was just him standing in the middle of the goal and watching the ball go past him. That he never used to move ever. It's crazy. But Neil, go on. You had him at number 2.
Yeah, well, it literally was for the cheating and then the subsequent drugs, and out of that, it's the fall from grace that basically you become one of the most celebrated and greatest players in the world to becoming one of the most hated players in the world. And I'm afraid that tarnished his ability. I mean, you speak to kids of my generation, that grow well still now, and you speak to them. Then, if you list great footballers, he very rarely comes up on my generation's list anymore because of that cheat, and he should. When you listen to Gary Lineker say that the England squad watched him warming up and kicking that ball so high in the air and coming straight back down, and he kick it straight back up again, and they all went back to the England camp and tried it, and not one of them could do it. It tells you the talent he had. It was literally the cheating, and that it's despicable, isn't it? It was then, it is now.
Indeed. So that was my number 5. Jack, your number 4 was Mike Tyson. So Neil, your number 4, please.
So this is an ex-Tottenham player who did the one thing we knew he had to be sold, but the one thing he went is to Arsenal. Sol Campbell.
I write his soul before you even finished and said his name.
It upset every one of the Tottenham fans. I mean, you probably loved it, Jack.
Jack's laughing his head off.
Yeah. But it was a shock to all of his fans. And then for such a beloved player to Tottenham to do that to his own fans, I mean, it was a shocker. I mean, how would you have felt if Kenny Dalglish had gone to Man United in those circumstances?
Difference is, though, he wouldn't know, Neil, would he?
Well, we never thought Sol Campbell would, but that's what I'm saying.
But he wanted to win things, didn't he, Neil? I mean, to be honest, to be fair,
he wanted to win the Premier League at White Hart Lane. So that's what he had to do.
But no, it's true. I mean, it's the same thing. It's that loyalty to the club, the one thing, and it smarted for a while. It really did.
But he was a legend for you, though, Jack, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, as you all know, Neil, he was a top player. And
he was.
I think it was Barcelona and Inter Milan and all that. Everyone was after him anyway because he was out of contract. And to be honest, if I was him, I probably wouldn't have necessarily chosen Arsenal if he had his pick of clubs. I would have maybe gone to like Real Madrid or something like that. But yeah, he's made the right choice.
And then he ended up at Notts County.
Well, yeah.
With Sven Goran Eriksson, of all people. God, imagine that. Is that it for Sol Campbell, Neil? Do you want to say
it just leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. No, it really does. But yeah, it literally is. You take any of your most beloved players and put it in the same situation. It's just a bit of respect to the fans that got you to where you were originally. And then we haven't got a problem with you moving on, but don't go to your most... your rivals, your most heated rivals. Don't go. Don't do it.
Agree with you, Neil. Totally agree.
That's really spitting in the eyes of the people that loved you. That really was.
Money and trophies talk, though, don't they, Neil? That's the thing.
Well, obviously, but I haven't seen it since as passionate as that.
Oh, you just
No.
hold your horses and wait, Neil. You just hold your horses and wait. I might have one for you. We'll see a little bit later on. Okay. My number 4 was Ben Johnson. So we've already spoken about that. So Jack, your number 3, please.
My number 3 is Floyd Mayweather, who I think is the ultimate pantomime villain, and he absolutely loves it, and he wouldn't have it any other way. But
it's a persona with him, though, isn't it? Rather than
he's obviously a class boxer, but it's a fairly boring style that he has, and also he's a lot better than most of his opponents. So he shouldn't really sell the amount of tickets and pay-per-views and stuff that he does, but he does because everyone pays the money to want him to lose, and he's really cashed in on that and made a load of money by doing that. But yeah, I mean, he's one of the few fighters where I would stay up until like 5 a.m. and watch, rather than kind of watch it the day after, because yeah, I mean, at that time I was intrigued to see if anyone could beat Mayweather as well, and I wanted it to happen actually, even though I quite like boxers that are trash talk. Like my favourite ever boxer is Roy Jones, and he did a lot of that and a lot of stuff in the ring, but he was a bit more exciting, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, Mayweather outside the ring, he's had his demons as well. He's had quite a few sort of assault charges and some of the sort of degrading stuff he said about Pacquiao and some of his opponents, and you know, he brings kind of race and other things into it quite a lot. And yeah, some of it's definitely to sell tickets, but yeah, he is a bit of a wrong one as well.
Would you say that Mayweather is pound for pound like the best fighter there's ever been?
No, but he's up there.
Yeah. And the other question,
not the best.
If you had the money that he had, would you get loads of it in cash and take photos of yourself with it all, like he does, like all the jewelry, and put it on like social media?
It's impossible to say because I never have that amount of money. Money does crazy things to people. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether
but
I
would probably would be doing bets like he does, because he loves a bet, and it's just because he's just playing with house money, isn't he? So I probably would do that, but no, I don't think I'd be flashing it the way that he does.
Wouldn't be all blinged. I know that Neil, for a fact, he'd be all blinged up. He'd have the old grill in the mouth and everything.
Yeah.
And he'd be,
yeah,
you'd be like a pimp, wouldn't you, Neil?
I would. I would. I'd wear a big fur coat and a massive hat and walk around with a cane. Or on another day, I'd just have a monocle and a top hat.
Yeah.
That'll be me.
That would be you, indeed, that would. Right, Neil, so number 3, you said John McEnroe.
Yeah.
Number 3, I said Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong. So, Jack, we'll back you with your number 2, please.
So I don't have any footballers on the list, but I do have Sepp Blatter.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah,
that is fair enough.
So I think corruption really just sums it up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they're all a little bit like that, but he's obviously did a lot of bad stuff. And these last 2 World Cups going to Russia and Qatar were just riddled in bribery, fraud, money laundering and things like that. There's been a little bit of like sexual assault claims and stuff coming out as well. And yeah, these things, it's kind of been going on for years as well. It seems to happen like the claims come out and they're still in power for quite a few years. And then finally, I don't know, it just gets too much and the whole scandal all comes out and they have to be removed from their position, I suppose. But yeah, what he's done to FIFA and their reputation is they're going to struggle to come back from that.
I think he and Michel Platini just got cleared for one particular charge, didn't they? But I think you're right. I think it was rife all the way through the system, wasn't it? Of like jobs for the boys and you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours kind of thing. And then that bleeds down from the top, and everybody's looking for that little bit of extra money for favours and God knows what. That's a good one. I didn't even think of Sepp.
No, nor did I, but it's a great choice.
That is a good one. Right, Neil, you said Maradona for number 2.
I did.
My number 2 goes a little bit like your Sol Campbell, Neil.
Can I guess?
Go on.
Torres.
No.
Oh, right.
God,
Okay.
no. There's
Sterling.
nothing wrong with Torres. No.
Sterling?
Who was that, Jack?
Is it Sterling?
Not Sterling. No. It's someone who could have been a Liverpool legend and decided to go, I think it was Real Madrid to start with, but ended up at Man United. It's fucking Michael Owen. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
okay.
but somebody that now, when he's commentating on Liverpool games, will say "we" all the time. No. If you're going to go to United, you've got no right to say "we" when you're talking about Liverpool. You could have been up there with Dalglish and Keegan and Rush and Fowler and people like that, but you decided you wanted to go off, and fair play, you want to go off and better yourself at Real Madrid, which is fine. And then I feel sorry for the fact that he got lots of injuries, decided to come back to Newcastle, but then to go to United, I had one of my favourite things is seeing his face when Aguero scores that goal and he can't believe that they've lost the league. And I've got no time for the guy now. I won't listen to him when he's talking, when he's giving. I would rather listen to Paul Scholes and Roy Keane, because you know that they are United players because they wanted to be United players. Someone like Michael Owen, I've got no respect for at all. And it was very close to him being my number 1 sporting villain. Just because the fact that I think he feels that he is like Liverpool royalty, and he foregoed all of those kind of privileges as far as I'm concerned. And I love the fact that when Steven Gerrard called him out on it as well, because I think Michael Owen says, I can't remember what it was he said, but Steven Gerrard said sort of like, well, if I played for Man United, I'd feel like that as well. Sort of like really sort of wound him up about it. That's all I've got to say about that, to be honest. I could go on for ages about Michael Owen. He
Exactly.
really pisses me off.
And he's a very boring commentator. Christ, is that man boring.
But, like I say, I don't really listen to... I'm quite glad I haven't got BT Sport, because I wouldn't want to listen to him droning on about stuff anyway. But it's just when I see clips and he says "we," like the royal "we" for Liverpool, and I think you've got no right. You've got no right to say that. It's just not right. Okay, before we announce our number 1s, Jack, if you want to give us your countdown from number 10 to number 2, please, and then Neil will do the same.
So number 10, I've got Conor McGregor. Number 9, John McEnroe. Number 8, Ben Johnson. Number 7, Marion Jones. Number 6, LeBron James. Number 5, Nick Kyrgios. Number 4, Mike Tyson. Number 3, Floyd Mayweather. And number 2, Sepp Blatter.
Thank you. And Neil, your 10 to 2?
So number 10, Lance Armstrong. Number 9, Thierry Henry. Sorry, Jack. Number 8, Joey Barton. Number 7, Giant Haystack. Number 6, Paul Scholes. Number 5, Mike Tyson. Number 4, Sol Campbell. Number 3, John McEnroe. Number 2, Maradona.
Thank you. And said really fast again, Neil. Thank you very much for that.
Oh, yeah. Keep you on your toes.
Thank you. I'm feeling sorry for the people who are watching it on YouTube, with all these pictures are just going to go whizzing by really
It's
quickly.
like subliminal messages. Yes. They'll be waking up and going,
Feel like
Maradona?
Clockwork Orange. They're going to all have to have like their eyes perched open with drops put in. Mine is number 10, Steve Davis. Number 9, Luis Suarez. 8, John McEnroe. 7, Vinnie Jones. 6, Mike Tyson. 5, Diego Maradona. 4, Ben Johnson. 3, Lance Armstrong, and 2, the shit Michael Owen. So, Jack, what is your number 1 sporting villain?
My number 1 sporting villain is Lance Armstrong.
Way!
Hooray. Yeah.
It's like the fairy tale, and then you find out there's like a hidden meaning behind it, which is bad. And that's kind of what it was. His story was, I don't know, it was so blinged up to be, this man that overcame everything, which he did, but with the help of performance enhancing drugs. And I get the argument about the research and stuff, but yeah, I just think in a way it's sometimes even worse. He's kind of used his disease almost as an excuse, maybe in his head to kind of justify it.
No, I absolutely see that. Yeah, I absolutely see that. That's a good one. You know,
it is. It's just he sort of like highlights what it is to be. You know, he is the incarnate of a cheat.
Yeah, absolutely.
He really is.
Yeah. Yeah, go on then, Neil. You're number one.
So it's John Fashanu, and this
John
really
Fashanu.
Yeah. With him, he's the real hard man of that Wimbledon team. Vinnie Jones just got sent out to do his dirty work, really.
But it's the fact of his whole attitude, the way he broke Gary Mabbott's skull and eye socket was literally disgusting.
Okay, now
But the fact is that then I watched that documentary about Wimbledon, and he bragged about it on there still.
Oh, really?
What he did. And I thought anybody that causes that sort of physical harm to somebody and then brags about it is a complete and utter arse villain to me. He is, honestly, I can't bear the blood. He's like you with Michael Owen. I have to switch him off. You know, it's not just because he broke Gary Mabbott's skull and eye socket, and that was nasty what he did. I mean, he came down with purpose to do that. I mean, he was nasty to a lot of other players on that Wimbledon pitch, but it's the fact that he brags about it now. And I don't like that at all. That really sits uncomfortable for me. So the fact, and I hated him on Gladiators as well.
I was going to say, so you never saw an episode of Gladiators? Because
I did, but I used to hate him. He just used to wind me up, you know, and then I saw.
So you never used to run around going, "Oh God!"
No, I didn't. But that is literally why, you know, since he did that, so that was 93-94 season. He did that to Gary Mabbott. I've not been able to bear the guy since, but he's made it even worse for me. He's just instilled that I don't like him and he is a complete villainous piece of shit. Is the fact that he was bragging about it on a documentary.
Well, there you go. I never would have put that as your number one, but there you go.
I don't like that now.
Good shout, though. Have you ever seen SAS Who Dares Wins before?
Oh yeah, I saw him on that. Yeah.
So he was exactly the same on that. Like he just couldn't control his temper.
No,
really.
At all.
He nearly choked somebody out on it.
Yeah.
Another celeb when they had to do this wrestling thing. He got him in an arm hold, or I think it was, or however it was, and they had to get him off. He was going to make the guy pass out.
Wow,
I've never seen that happen on that show before, but yeah,
it's going to be worth being a Patreon subscriber for the video playlist for this episode. I'll tell you, because there's going to be some meaty stuff that I'm going to put together for this one. That's for sure. I'll find the Gary Mabbott challenge, and I'll find it when he tries to choke someone out on Who Dares Wins.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. My number one is quite a recent development. This one, but it's the Live Tour golfers. I'm going to have as my sporting villains. They can tart it up as much as they like and say that they disagree with the things that, I mean, we don't get political here, but obviously it's all done by the Saudis. And they'll say that they don't agree, especially like, I mean, I love Phil Mickelson as a golfer. I think he's one of my favorite golfers. But the fact he will, in one breath, denounce all the things that the Saudis have been accused of doing, while pocketing $150 million of their money to go and play on a tour that basically has no real merit, with the fact that everybody's getting millions anyway. They're just going out for a nice game of golf, and it doesn't really matter who wins, because they're all getting paid amazing amounts of money just to be there.
This is a prime example of greed.
It is a prime example of greed. Now, I can understand if you're a young golfer at the start of your journey, because there's no guarantees, you know. So if, say, Live Golf come up to you and say, look, come and join our tour for 20 million, they're going to do it. I understand that. But for some of these players that golf has given them this platform, if you like, or given them this way of life where they've earned millions already, and you've got to stand up and cheer for people like Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods apparently has been offered $800 million to join that Live Golf tour, and he's turned around and said no. Now, obviously, he's a man that is worth probably 500, 600 million anyway, so he doesn't need the money. But he said it's the principle of the thing with the history of the PGA and the history of golf. the Live Tour hasn't got that, and all they're doing is chucking money at it, and I just find it, I just find it abhorrent, really, and I find it just really uncomfortable that the Saudis are trying to wipe clean their record just by chucking money at things, you know, and it's a shame, because I think they're going to get more and more golfers. Cameron, what's his name? The guy that just won the Open. I can't remember what his last name is, but apparently he's going to go for like 80 million, $100 million. They've already got Bryson DeChambeau. They got Dustin Johnson. They've got a lot of like big players already, and it's just gonna and a lot of things. I enjoy watching golf, and I just think it's going to be sad that it's going to be split up like that. So yeah, they're my number one, without a shadow of a doubt. Right, we got some honourable mentions. Jack, you said you had a couple more honourable mentions. Who have you got?
Yeah, Suarez was one, actually, just because of how he is.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And I'm going to say it, but I won't go into it. OJ Simpson.
No, I think
understandable.
I think it's a valid one to go, because he was a guy that was a hero to millions, to absolute millions. I mean, I didn't even think of OJ Simpson, but he's somebody that would be in my top 10 without a shadow of a doubt. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
whether we go in,
absolutely.
I mean, everybody knows what he did, or
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I don't think it's allegedly did. I mean, fucking hell, he did.
You've
it.
seen pictures, can't
He
you?
did
Fuck
it. It's
me.
you know, I don't know if anyone's seen the. Well, there's the documentary, and then there's also the one thing that got me. Did you know about the book that he wrote? It's the book. It's a hypothetical book of.
Oh yeah. If I
what
did it,
he did if he'd have done murder.
Yeah.
It is fucking nuts. It's absolutely crazy. And then he even did an interview where the woman was talking to him about hypothetically if you did it, and he's literally telling you how he did it. But every so often he'll just go, "Whoa, hypothetically." Fuck, he's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Actually, he's sort of admitting it.
And it's his fault we got the Kardashians.
Well, you know, I mean, you can't have a go at him for everything, can't you? I mean, really,
Yeah, I will on that. Who the fuck needed the Kardashians? Well,
I would say, Jack, that is a bona fide one that you could put in there without a shadow of a doubt.
Very good shout, Jack.
Yeah. Have you got any more, or is that it?
And Mourinho, how do you feel, Neil? I guess Pav, you're probably not a fan, but
I'm not a fan.
Given he was a Tottenham but he was also Chelsea, I suppose.
Yeah, and well, I just think he's just jumps wherever he wants to go. I didn't want him anyway. I literally think they should have stuck by Poch for a bit longer, and I didn't want him. We had to make the best of what we got when we did get him. I know Pav's a little bit of a fan of Mourinho.
Well, the one thing about Mourinho was that I always thought after his first stint at Chelsea, I would love him to come to Liverpool. I think he'd have been tailor-made for Liverpool. And the one thing I was worried about, that when Moyes left United, I thought if Mourinho goes in there, then
he should have got that job.
Everybody else is in trouble, because I was never worried about the person that took over from Alex Ferguson. I knew he was going to fail. It was going to be the person that took over the person that took over from Ferguson. That was the one that I was worried about. Luckily, that hasn't, and long may United be in complete disarray because they've just ballsed everything up. But Mourinho, at that point, I think would have taken United on to a different level. But I don't know. He seems a one-trick pony now. He seems to do the same kind of thing has 2 or 3 good seasons and then causes trouble and then has to move on. But I think he's running out of
payoff, goes to another job with a bit more money.
He's running out of places to go, doesn't he? I think that's the thing. But
but he does play the devil's advocate quite a lot as well, doesn't he? I think he does it on purpose. He likes to play mind games. He always has.
Oh, he always has. And he has got a nasty streak on him as well. When he pokes the eye of that guy in the
Barcelona, wasn't it?
Yeah. There's no need for stuff like that. But there you go. I think that's another good one. I do. We had some more honourable mentions. Stu Grant said Lance Armstrong, Vince McMahon, Bruce Grobbelaar, Lester Piggott, Mike Tyson, Ric Flair, and Nelson PK. Ollie Jenks, hello Ollie, said Gattuso. And at the God of Pod said Luis Suarez. He makes zombies look tame. He sunk his teeth into 3 players since 2010. Even kids and untrained puppies thinks Louis needs to chill with the biting. So there you go. Sporting villains done. I mean, we didn't have the record of last week of all of us picking the same number 1, but there you go.
Can't happen every time.
Can't happen every time.
Left field one, wasn't it?
Indeed. Jack, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's all right. Thank you for calling me a loser. That was very nice. I've never had
welcome.
that
Top
live
10
on a
losers,
podcast
Jack.
before.
We'll set that podcast up.
Thank you. I knew Jack's number 1 will be. It'll be me.
Full of Tottenham players, that'll be.
Yeah, hey. Look, I was supposed to show a bit of unity there, Jack. A bit of we can stand side by side, but no, that's it, Pav. I'm staying with you, mate.
It's never going to work, Neil. No. You know, there are certain things like magnets. You know, when you try and push them together and they just keep sticking apart. It never happens. But yes, so we will put the link to your podcast in the show notes, so everybody have a little listen to that. It's a lot of fun. Like I say, the Pat Nevin one was a lot of fun. I do like listening to him on the BBC radio and that. So he's a guy that's got a few stories to tell, hasn't he, old Pat Nevin? That show of the day. Neil, do you want to tell everybody how they can get in touch and all that gubbins?
Of course I can. You can find us on all the social media sites, whatever they may be now. Click us at toptenpods. Give us a like, give us a follow. Email us at toptenpods@hotmail.com. Please do, and let us know what you think. Let us know what you think another top 10 should be. Come and help support the podcast at patreon.com/top10pods. There's all sorts of rewards for you to get your greedy mitts on, and check out all our links via the LINKTREE. You can find the link in the show notes, and please do come, click, subscribe, and follow our podcast on wherever you get your podcast from.
Wonderful. Jack, thank you so much for joining us. Finally lovely to meet you, even though it is obviously virtually, but it's great to meet you. Neil, always a pleasure to see you, as always.
Thank you very much, pal. Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you very much, everybody else, for listening and watching. And let's start the countdown.
10, 9.